So I want to welcome you to the police information session today that will focus on the police officer role. Before I begin though, I would like to acknowledge and pay our respects to the traditional owners of the land and their elders past and present and emerging, and give thanks for allowing us to meet here today. My name is Hannah and I work in the applicant attraction team, which is part of recruiting here at Victoria Police, and I'm joined today by First Constable Maddie Smith. Maddie, could you tell us where you're currently based?
I'm currently based at Melbourne West Police Station.
Great. So there are 4 key roles within Victoria Police, and as I mentioned, we're going to focus on the police officer role today. However, there is also the protective services officer role. That's that policing role that's based at train stations and their surrounds and the wider transport network. We've got the police custody officer role, which is based at police stations to safely manage persons in custody. And then you've got what's called a Victorian public servant, and that's someone like myself, and we play supporting roles across the organisation in an array of different departments, from marketing to legal, IT, finance, analytics, intelligence, the list goes on. So at Victoria Police, there are over 20,000 employees and we're spread over 500 different locations throughout the state. So already you can start to see the diversity in the team and the unit that you might end up working in, as well as the geographical location diversity as well. So on that, Maddie, you mentioned that you're now based at Melbourne West Police Station. Can you tell us what motivated you to join Victoria Police in the first place?
Yeah, so ever since I was a little kid, it's something I wanted to do. All throughout high school, I'd tell my friends, I'm going to be a police officer. Then at the age of 18, early one morning, I was going out to snowboard with a friend, and a male actually walked out of my house, and I had no idea that they were there. And my friend asked, hey, have you had friends over or something? And I said no. And then realised all of our car doors were open and cars had been broken into. And I ended up asking him, like, when did you last see him? The person had just left, so my friend drove around the estate looking for him, and I decided to go out on foot and actually went around the corner and saw a male breaking into cars. And I thought, he's got my laptop. I could see my laptop around his shoulder. So my first instinct was to chase after him. Ended up chasing after him, getting my laptop back, and then obviously reported it to the police and went through the whole process of trying to find the offender, and went and did a photo board, wrote a statement, and it was all so exciting. And I thought, this would be so cool to be a detective one day or something like that. So I went along to an information session not long after at the VPC, and after the information session I thought, this is something I have to do and want to do, and it's the best thing I've ever done.
What were you doing prior to joining Victoria Police?
So prior to joining, throughout high school, at the age of 14, got a job in retail. So I worked in retail for a few years. Once I graduated high school, I worked for the AFL in an admin role. I worked at a school. So the school I worked at, I just helped in PE classes and did administration, and then ended up getting an ongoing role with them. So for 5 years worked in a school, and part-time owned my own business. So I did a fair few things before I joined Victoria Police. But yeah, always Victoria Police was in the back of my mind. So yeah.
Thanks so much, Maddie, for outlining what it was that you were doing prior. It's always really interesting to understand and hear that. And then what will happen once someone has gone through the recruitment process and has been successful in that process, they'll be given a squad date, and then they'll start their training at the academy. And this is really important. All of our officers go through this training, and then once they've finished that training, they'll go into what we call a general duties policing role, and all officers will go into that role for a minimum of 2 to 4 years at the beginning of their career. And I guess this is really important because this is where your foundational skills as an officer are really developed. So once you are confirmed as a police officer, and that's 2 years and 13 weeks from when you've started your training at the academy, all officers are subject to something that's called the ballot process. So this process allocates members to stations in need across metro and regional Victoria. Due to the fact that Victoria Police serves the entire state, officers may be required from time to time to work in a country location. And country police is embraced by many, and that's because it provides a really different type of workplace opportunity as well as lifestyle experiences. So just on that, Maddie, could you tell us about your journey within Victoria Police so far?
Yeah, sure. So I graduated from the academy in October of 2017. I then went to Booze Bus for 3 weeks where I did roadside drug and alcohol testing. I then was lucky enough to be sent to the State Highway Patrol for 2 weeks, which was a highlight, definitely a highlight. Then I was posted to Carrum Downs Police Station where I was for 3 or 4 months, and I've been at Melbourne West ever since then. So yeah.
So just on that, now that you're based at Melbourne West Police Station, could you tell us about what your, main objectives and duties are, and what a typical shift looks like if there is one?
Yep, so there's definitely no such thing as a typical shift, but our main duties are divisional van, where we are out on the road responding to 000 calls. There's the watch house, where you're dealing with counter inquiries, so it could be lost property, stolen property, things like that. And then foot patrols, so where you're out on foot, out in the community, being a presence basically.
So whenever I attend an information session, obviously I talk to members all the time and they always tell me that no 2 days are the same. What would you say to that?
They're exactly right. You expect the unexpected, and in this job we have front row seats to literally the greatest show on earth.
Thanks, Maddie, for outlining what a general duties police officer does. We're going to take a look at some specialist areas now, and that's really important because your 2 to 4 years as a general duties police officer will actually provide you some exposure to specialist areas. As you can see here, we've highlighted some of those specialisations, and these do have a higher fitness requirement. So you can see that we've got listed the Critical Incident Response Team, Dog Squad, Search and Rescue, and the Special Operations Group. And some of those specialisations are more competitive than others. A good example of that would be the Dog Squad. The reality of that unit is that there's under 50 positions across the state, whereas if you were looking at, say, becoming a detective, there's over 1,000. So there's a little look at some of the specialist areas within Victoria Police, but it's by no means all of the specialist areas. So you could pursue one of these areas, but in saying that, the choice is absolutely yours. You could be a general duties police officer, you could become an expert in a specialist field, or you could seek rank promotion to manage teams. And that's because there are 10 ranks in total, from that base police officer rank all the way up to Chief Commissioner. But in saying that, many police officers will stay general duties their entire career, and that's because they enjoy it so much. So back over to you, Maddie, because you're currently in that general duties policing role. Can you tell us about a rewarding experience that you've had on the job so far?
I can. So there's been plenty, but a highlight for me would have to be a job we attended where there was a theft from a construction site. So we attended, and when we got there, we had many people in the community coming up to us telling us about this male who was running rampant around the city streets, and he matched the description from the construction site job. And as we were getting closer and closer to finding him, a male ran over to us and was screaming, I've been robbed, and gave the description of the male from the construction site. And with the help from Safe City cameras, we were able to locate the male, and as we approached him, he ran off. So we were in a foot pursuit for several blocks throughout the city. We ended up apprehending the male and got him into custody, and went back and spoke to the victim, and we were able to retrace his steps and retrieve all his stolen goods. So his mobile phone, his wallet, his bag, his laptop, and the male was just so thankful. And to be able to find his stolen goods, have that male in custody, it was just the best feeling, and I left work that day feeling like I'd made a difference. So it was definitely a highlight for me.
That sounds like a really rewarding experience. On the flip side of that, could you tell us about a challenging day that you've had?
Yeah, so a challenging day, I remember a visually impaired male came to report that he'd had his credit card stolen. Now, being visually impaired, obviously there's some barriers there. So we weren't able to get a proper description of the offender. So we made him feel more comfortable. We went and spoke to him in his home in a more comfortable environment where he was able to give us finer details, so things such as the location, the time. And with that, we were able to grab some CCTV footage. Going through that footage, we were then able to identify the offender and get them into custody.
Great. So even though challenging to begin with, it sounds like you achieved an ideal outcome.
Yeah, and it was all achieved through communication skills essentially.
So Maddie, what does your future hold with Victoria Police?
My future with the Victoria Police, there's so many options. You don't actually realise the options that are available within Victoria Police. Right now, I'm pretty happy in general duties, learning the foundations of policing, but one day I'd like to either go into the media unit or go back to the academy and actually teach the up and coming recruits.
So would you say there are a lot of learning opportunities within Victoria Police?
There are definitely a lot of learning opportunities within Victoria Police throughout your whole career to develop your skills.
So it's been really insightful, I suppose, to hear from you, Maddie, about what that general duties policing role involves. But we're going to take a step back because everyone has to go through the academy, and that's where our recruits are trained to become police officers. So the academy is based out at Glen Waverley, and our recruits are there for 31 weeks to complete their policing training. The academy has everything our recruits need. It's an incredible site, from accommodation to live-in to lecture rooms. There's an Olympic-sized swimming pool, as well as basketball courts, an athletics oval, a running track. There's even a cafeteria for your meals. There's a chapel beside that. There's also simulation training rooms, weapons ranges, and most impressively, a scenario-based village, which is to scale. It includes a train carriage at a platform, a bank, a petrol station, a fish and chip shop, as well as houses to reflect a neighbourhood. And this really complements the comprehensive training our recruits do receive whilst they're out there. So some recruits choose to live in at the academy, where they'll be paying for their meals and accommodation, but you do need to live 30 kilometres or more away to be eligible for this. Whilst our police recruits are out there, they're studying for a diploma of policing. It's really important to note, though, that the police academy is not like a university campus. You'll have set classes that you'll need to attend at specific times, as well as a uniform standard that needs to be adhered to, and a rank structure that needs to be respected at all times. So on that, Maddie, can you talk to us about your academy experience and I guess what it was like? How did you find the study? What was the intensity of the training like, as well as your fellow recruits and instructors?
Yeah, so my experience at the academy was so much fun. I really enjoyed it. My squad mates and my sister squad, we all had a really strong bond. So you're spending 31 weeks with like-minded people. So you're all there and you're all wanting to study and do well. So we, as a group, after class, would have study groups. We'd use the gym facilities in the pool to keep our fitness levels up. The teachers and the sergeants, even the senior sergeants, everyone's so supportive and everyone wants you to do well. And it was honestly probably the best 31 weeks I had.
It sounds like a really interesting 31 weeks to go through the academy and just have all of that training. It's worth pointing out that on top of being paid to train when you're at the academy and beyond that, there are many excellent benefits that are available throughout one's career in policing. And so this is after you've graduated at the academy. And that includes up to 9 weeks of annual leave a year, being able to apply for study, maternity and paternity and long service leave. There's 15 days of sick leave a year, as well as requests for flexible working conditions. So these can be requested, but they are based on operational requirements and you can only request them once you are confirmed. So that's that 2 years and 13 weeks from when you've started at the academy. And on top of this, there are excellent support services that are available to all of our officers, but that's extended to all of their families as well. And it's worth pointing out too that even though you do your 31 weeks of training at the academy, your learning and professional development doesn't stop there. All throughout your career, you will have to undergo continuous training and improvement, and you are learning for the entirety of your career. So Maddie, does the role allow for work-life balance, and had you done any shift work prior?
So the job definitely allows for work-life balance. Like you mentioned, the 9 weeks of leave a year, that's just incredible. You're also able to put in requests. So if you've got a wedding or a birthday or something coming up, work are pretty flexible and they will happily facilitate you with enough notice to get the weekend off.
Had you done shift work prior though?
Shift work I hadn't done prior, but it's honestly not so bad. If you go in with a plan, so blackout curtains, eating at certain times, whatever works for you, you just have to play with it and You'll eventually work it out, but it's honestly not bad at all.
Could you tell us, Maddie, about the police family and what it means to you?
The police family is exactly that. They're a family. In this job, we see things and do things that not everybody does. So it's so nice to know that these like-minded people are there to support you and have your back.
So it sounds like you have an incredible level of support from your colleagues at Victoria Police. You mentioned earlier how important communication skills are, and so we're actually going to talk a little bit more about desirable skills and attributes in competitive applicants. So we'll have a quick look now at those key attributes. As you can see, we've got strong communication skills, community mindedness, a healthy level of fitness, good character and reputation, leadership skills, integrity and resilience. But it's really important to note that it's not one attribute or skill set that we're looking for. Instead, it's your overall suitability for the role. So whilst in years 11 and 12, there are certain things that you can do to make you more competitive in your application. We're going to run through a few of these examples. So we look at customer service work experience. That could be part-time or casual, it could be at your McDonald's, your Coles, your IGA, and this really helps build those communication skills that Maddie was touching on. The ability to deal with people from all walks of life, work through conflict resolution in those scenarios when they do present themselves, and be able to demonstrate that you do have those really important communication skills. We also look at whether or not you've ever participated or done any type of community service work experience. So that could be volunteering at a nursing home, maybe helping out in a soup kitchen, disability services, the local surf life-saving club. This demonstrates to us, again, those key communication skills that you've been developing, as well as your ability to act selflessly, but give back to the community, which is really important because that's a large part of this role that you're looking at going into. We then also consider whether or not you've got any involvement in sporting clubs. So you could be participating in a sporting club, netball, soccer, football, or what have you, or perhaps you coach or mentor a junior team. And what we're looking at from there is those key communication skills. Again, you can start to see a reoccurring theme, as well as your ability to operate well in a team, because that again is a key part to policing, and that healthy level of fitness, because you do need it to get through the recruitment process, as well as whilst you're on the job and in that role. And then we also look at whether or not you've ever done any travel. So that could be interstate, regionally, or even overseas. And what we're looking at from there is exposure to different communities other than the one that you've grown up in with your family and friends, and starting to really develop that awareness that the community really is made up of all walks of life. So they're just a few examples of life experiences that can be gained in years 11 and 12. Don't wait until you've finished year 12. That's stuff that you guys can start doing now. So I encourage applicants, even if you are of a high school age, and applicants in general, to consider their experience to see if it ties in with some of those examples that we've just spoken about. The reality is though, if you're going to apply as an 18-year-old and you've got your VC certificate or your senior VCAL, you're still going to be going through the recruitment process for 6 to 9 months before you do get into the academy. So during this time, it's really important to keep building on those work-life examples that we've just gone through, keep your work hours up, and absolutely keep working on those communication skills. So Maddie, how important are communication skills?
So important. In this job, we deal with all different types of people. And yes, we have our baton and our spray and our other options, but at the end of the day, communication skills are our most important tool. We use it to de-escalate situations to get a positive outcome.
So we're really focused on growing the diversity of Victoria Police so that our workforce is an accurate representation of the community that we serve. And when we're talking about diversity, we're talking about age, gender, religion, culture, and sexual orientation. So on that, how important do you think a diverse workforce is to what we do?
Diversity is so important. I recently went to a family violence job where a male and a female were in a relationship, and the female was too scared to essentially tell her partner that she was bisexual. So in Victoria Police, we have members who work as GLOWs, so they're gay, lesbian liaison officers. So their job is to support people within the LGBTI community. So going back to that family violence incident, I was able to put the female victim in touch with her, and it was just so amazing to be able to have that resource. So diversity within Victoria Police is so important because we're able to cater for all members within the community.
Thanks, Maddie. We're now going to look at eligibility requirements, and there are key eligibility requirements that you should make sure that you can meet before you submit your application. And we're going to have a look at some of these now, and these include being 18 years of age or older, and with this you do need to have your VCE certificate or your senior VCAL. However, if you wait until you're 21 and older to apply, there are no educational requirements. Having your Australian citizenship or your permanent residency, as well as your Australian driver's licence. So a manual or an automatic is acceptable, but you do need to have your licence. You also need to be of good character and reputation, and you'll hear this term frequently throughout the recruitment process. And that's because we undertake various checks to ensure that your values align with ours. We also strongly encourage any prospective applicants to read through two key documents called the Prior History Guidelines and the Medical Guidelines, and they're both available on the Police Career website. And these are to assess whether or not you have any prior history or pre-existing medical conditions that will impact upon your application. Regarding tattoos, if you have any on your hands, face or neck, we suggest that you take a picture of it and send it in and get it assessed before you apply, because these are assessed on a case by case as to whether or not it will impact upon your application. So now we're going to look at the recruitment process in a little more detail, and this process can take anywhere from 6 to 9 months to get through. So applicants who are ready and compliant can complete the process in 6 months post-exam. And you can see some of those time frames associated with each of those different stages, but that's an indication only. There are, however, things that can delay the process, and this includes pushing out the exam to the end of the book and sit timeframe, plus any additional resits that are required, having to resit any components of the fitness testing. If there is any late, missing or incomplete documentation at any stage, that we have to reach out to you and ask of you again, and if there are any complex medical conditions that require additional appointments and or specialist documentation. So even though we give an indicative timeframe, it's really important to understand that the recruitment process can exceed 9 months should any of those items occur, which will result in a delay. So in the lead up to the recruitment process then, Maddie, how important do you think schooling is?
Schooling's hugely important. It's where you begin to develop the relevant work-life examples you'll need to make yourself more competitive throughout the recruitment process. It's also important as you'll need a good level of comprehension to be able to get through the recruitment process, and school's definitely going to help with this.
So on that with schooling, are there specific subjects as such that you need to do?
Not specific subjects as such, but subjects that will help you with your communication skills, social work, health, anything that'll help you build your fitness up, so physical education, and pick subjects that play to your strengths. So anything that's going to help you throughout the recruitment process.
So it's really important to select subjects, that, like you said, that play to your strengths, but also things that'll help physically and mentally prepare you for the role. So if you're interested in what you've heard today and you'd like more information about it, we suggest you visit the Police Career website. It has all of the information that we've gone through, as well as all of the resources that are available to you. These include the entrance exam practice tests, downloading of the Police Fit app, as well as our fitness test video and the fitness test tutorials. So if you are interested in a career in policing, there are a few things that you should keep in mind before you apply. And these include completing your Year 12 so that you have your VCE certificate or your senior VCAL, having that casual or part-time customer-facing work experience where you're really developing those communication skills. Volunteer work experience, again where you're developing communication skills in a community-based environment. Continue to study what interests you, bearing in mind the job role, the fitness requirements, what will develop your communication skills, and your community involvement. Being mindful of those that you associate with and how that may impact upon your character and reputation. And be mindful of your social media profile, things that you have commented on or liked that may have a negative connotation. So Maddie, just on those points that we outlined, do you have any final advice or message for prospective applicants thinking about applying?
So if this is something you really want to do, commit now whilst you're in school and have those relevant work-life experiences ready. You're more suited than you might think, and this is honestly the best job in the world.
Thanks, Maddie. Well, we really hope that you guys will walk away from today's session with a realistic and comprehensive understanding of not only what a career in policing could look like, but what the recruitment process involves and all those steps that you need to undertake before you submit your application online. If you would like more information, please jump onto the Police Career website. We've got a lot more information ready and available for you. Or please reach out to the applicant attraction team, because we're here to help answer any questions and support prospective applicants. Thanks, and we look forward to seeing your applications come in soon.